Hi everyone, Jonathan here.
And I'm Day. Greeting your American boss.
In this lesson, you'll learn how to address someone formally from a conversation in a government office.
The conversation takes place between Sheila and her new boss, Mark. Sheila just showed up for her first day at work on her internship.
Since Mark is Sheila's boss and they don't know each other yet, the language starts off very formally.
All right, let's listen to the conversation. Good morning. Are you Mr. Cantor? I was told to report here. I have an internship with this office starting today.
Yes, you must be...
Sheila Jones, sir.
Right, I remember speaking on the phone with you. Let's see, we have a cubicle for you right over there. Why don't you get settled in?
Thank you, Mr. Cantor.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Cantor is my father. We're on a first-name basis here, so you can call me Mark.
Of course, sir.
And you can drop the sir, too, unless you want me to start calling you ma'am.
Of course not, sir. Mark?
That's better now.
It seems strange that after just 2 minutes, Sheila's boss asked her to use his first name.
The American workplace can actually be quite casual. Many, perhaps even most, bosses and employees interact with each other in an informal manner and on a first-name basis.
So for my next job in the United States, should I just start calling my boss by his or her first name?
I wouldn't recommend that. It's always better to speak too formally rather than too informally. Especially during introductions, you can leave a positive impression by using Mr., Ms., or Doctor when speaking with your boss, a client, or even a coworker.
What about sir and ma'am?
Using sir or ma'am elevates the other person's status. It's not used as much these days in an office, but if you're dealing with clients or customers or talking with strangers, it is appropriate to address them as sir or ma'am. Like I said, it's always okay to be too formal. All right, are you ready for the vocab?
Yes, sir. The first word we shall see is
To report.
to show up, to come to.
To report. To report.
Next is
Cubicle.
an office made by low dividing walls.
Cubicle. Cubicle.
Next,
To settle in.
to put your things down, organize your belongings, get used to the place.
To settle in. To settle in.
Next,
Sir.
polite way to address a man.
Sir. Sir.
Next,
Ma'am.
polite way to address a woman.
Ma'am. Ma'am.
Next,
By the way.
also, used when talking about related items.
By the way. By the way.
Next,
First name basis.
the state of using first names rather than formal titles and last names.
First name basis. First name basis.
Next,
To drop.
to stop using.
To drop. To drop. Let's have a closer look at the usage for some of the words and phrases from this lesson. The first one is
Mark says, "Oh, by the way." As we learned in the vocab section, by the way means also or on a related matter.
so when we add "oh," we can use this as a transition between ideas when we are talking about a related topic.
Okay, I understand.
Great. Oh, by the way, what's the next phrase?
Mark says, "Mr. Cantor is my father. You can call me Mark. We're on a first name basis here." Why is Mark talking about his family?
When Mark says, Mr. Cantor is my father, It is a very friendly and humorous way for him to say that it is all right to talk to him on a first-name basis. The implication is that it makes him feel old to be called Mr., and that he would prefer to be called by his first name.
I see. And could I do the same thing if someone called me Mrs. Jones?
Sure, just substitute mother for father. Good job, Ms. Jones.
Please, call me Day-Day. Ms. Jones is my mother. Are you ready to move on, Mr. Putzer? The focus of this lesson is addressing people formally when meeting them.
Right. Sheila said, "Thank you, Mr. Cantor."
You probably already know that Mr. is a formal and polite way to refer to a man.
We also heard some good examples of other formal titles earlier, like when I called you Ms. Jones and you called me Mr. Putzer. Mr. for men and Ms. for women are the most commonly used titles in formal situations. They are always acceptable, and you can use them without worrying about ever offending someone.
But they aren't the only ones you will encounter. Let's start with
Doctor.
We can address someone as doctor even if he is not a medical doctor. We use this when they have graduated from a PhD or doctorate program.
Exactly. Take Mr. Albert Einstein.
I believe you are referring to Dr. Albert Einstein.
Right. Doctor is a good title that can be used for either women or men. It doesn't matter.
There are a few other titles we can use, but they are more specific, like
Mrs. and Miss.
Let's listen to that again.
Mrs. and Miss.
They sound similar, but are very different in their meaning.
Mrs. is always used for a married woman. Take Michelle Obama, the wife of U.S. President Barack Obama. It's appropriate to address her as Mrs. Michelle Obama or Mrs. Obama. In some cases, we can even say Mrs. Barack Obama, meaning the wife of Barack Obama, but this usage is getting less popular with time.
Right, but what about Miss?
Miss is used only for unmarried women. Before Michelle Obama was married, we could have called her Miss Michelle Robinson. Robinson was her maiden name.
You have to be careful with these terms, though. While you will still hear them frequently in the United States, they are getting less popular with time as Ms. becomes the most accepted title for women.
Especially in a business setting, it doesn't matter whether or not the person is married, so it's best to use Ms.
Mrs., Ms., Miss, they all sound so similar, though.
That's true, but you should still try and be careful.
We also heard the term ma'am and sir during the dialogue. They were defined for us during the vocab section, but how can we use them appropriately?
Great question. When we are talking to someone of higher status, we can use sir for men and ma'am for women. These terms are still used widely when talking with strangers, but are not used much in the workplace these days. The one exception is the military, however, where you must address your superiors as sir or ma'am.
You will mostly hear them from strangers, though, especially if they approach you in a public place. It is appropriate for them to say, "Excuse me, sir," or "Excuse me, ma'am," followed by a request.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes?
I think we're running out of time.
Oh, you're right.
We'll be back next lesson for more English learning fun.
See you next time. Good morning. Are you Mr. Cantor? I was told to report here. I have an internship with this office starting today.
Yes, you must be...
Sheila Jones, sir.
Right, I remember speaking on the phone with you. Let's see, we have a cubicle for you right over there. Why don't you get settled in?
Thank you, Mr. Cantor.
Oh, by the way, Mr. Cantor is my father. We're on a first-name basis here, so you can call me Mark.
Of course, sir.
And you can drop the sir, too, unless you want me to start calling you ma'am.
Of course not, sir. Mark?
That's better now.